So, good evening and good morning, and welcome to the Circle of Harmony, where the topic today again is the continuation of what we were discussing last week, gossip. So, exploring the in effects, how so many times we think a lot of things are neutral. It doesn't bother me, it's not causing anybody harm. But it's not neutral, it's actually harming us. So we'll be looking at that and we'll be trying to see if we can get to the root of the need for this gossip, and we'll see where we reach, where we go. And so as we begin, invoking Mother and Sri Aurobindo's grace and presence, with so much kindness, the divine gives us so many teachings, hints, directions, shows us the path. And yet often we find ourselves not strong enough, not sincere enough, not honest enough, not clear enough to follow what I can clearly see. Just taking a few moments to aspire for this clarity with a prayer that, take my hand and take me where I need to be. Because we hear, we read, we listen, we sense so much. Yet, I wonder if we are able to implement all we read, all we know as right into our lives. But not to say this as a disappointment or a, I don't know what word to use, but just to use this as fuel in the fire again, that I know and I must wake up now. I know and I must walk now. So just starting with this aspiration. Thank you for indulging me. So, yeah. So we have been basically, although they seem like different topics, but we've been talking about, like first say complaints, then ill will, then gossip, and they are all linked at the root. I mean, if we are more open to seeing things from a distance, we'll see that clearly. So since we have been taking this topic for quite a few weeks, is there anything anybody would want to share before we begin? Anything that they noticed about, yes, the gossip is there. Yes, I can stop, but I don't, or maybe I do. So anything that has moved through anything that we have talked, read, heard is very welcome.
It is a very practical thing. We can actually, every moment we get into gossip, we can correct ourselves. And I've observed that if we don't gossip, there's not much to talk.
Very
And
true. Yes. Because today morning, sorry, I'm interrupting. Whenever my sister and me, we talk over phone, we always say there is nothing much to discuss if we don't talk about others.
yeah,
So it was, very, very true what you're saying. But consciously, how much consciously? You can be consciously, but there is nothing much to talk. What did you cook? What are you doing? Or when is your next class? That will be the conversation. Are you all right? Everything is okay at home? Your maid came? My maid came. That's all.
mm, yeah.
So,
So
Meera call, your
surprising.
daughter call. Yeah,
Yeah,
maximum will be this much. So,
but
like, people say we also need some salt.
yeah,
So, so
yeah,
this gossip is like salt, I think. Oh, we need that.
yeah. Some flavoring.
Though we know that we don't need, but I don't know what to talk. And sometimes we started with my sister and me will share some nice tips. Today I did this. I washed this brass with pitambari. It was shining, so I kept it near the puja room. You can also try. So I did this for my hair. You also do. Like beauty tips, home tips, something. But how long you can share? Every day you should keep on doing. I cleaned the wardrobe today. Did you clean? Like that only.
So Charuji, this salt that you're talking about, right? Like which we all know, right? If we talk about things which really don't need talking and we don't gain anything, that's more like us getting attracted because it to the things it brings, right? Like it's like a spike, right? In a regular thing, it's a spike, it's a delight, it's a out of ordinary, right? Existence in that moment. Ki, oh, you know what happened to the neighbor, or you know what happened to that Mali, or whatever. Do you know? Suddenly something in us just pops out that, how in cartoons they show that the two eyes are out of the sockets and it wants to know. So this need to know again, since we are talking about the roots, right? We are trying to get to the roots that why do I need these eyes out? I mean, of course, it feels good. It's a vital delight, right? Because ordinary feels boring. Similarly, I think we had shortly discussed that say if we were have to have the same meal every day, say the ashram food is so simple, right? So bland, so simple, so every day it's almost the same. I don't know about ashram food, but in a lot of places and retreats and all, and something in us craves for some spice, some difference, right? And that too is that spike we are looking for. So through words, through food, through entertainment, through engagements, we say we want equanimity, right? We say we want peace, simplicity, and yet through these things which has become so part of our lives that we don't even realize, right? That this is, say, for example, the harmful, one thing they say, for example, say if one says that I do not concentrate, right? Like I don't follow any awareness, attention, mindfulness practice. So it appears to be neutral, right? Okay, so when you start, it feels it's positive. But right now, if I'm not, it feels neutral. It feels I'm at par, right? And yet, the less we use the mind, say if a child say starts practicing at an early age, his mind will be so concentrated, so focused, his life most likely would be more directed towards a better aim, just throwing things out there, not saying anything very assertively, but yet it is negative, right? Like not being aware is negative. Participating in things which don't really concern me just for the spike is negative. So just to see, this need for drama, I might still have that open, what we shared in the reading and reflection. I had really liked it, and that's the reason. Yeah, it's right here, it's open. I think we'll just read one small paragraph just to reaffirm that. So it's Mother who's saying, would anybody like to read the highlighted part?
Yeah, I can read.
Thank you, Cyrus.
Yes. Okay. I've made discoveries, diseases, accidents, castro- castro- sorry, uh, catastrophes, wars, all that is so small, so narrow that it has a rabid taste for drama. And of course, behind there is this vital being having fun. Influences too. Anyway, all that enjoys an opportunity to delay the divine, work and make things difficult, and all that takes pleasure in that naturally encourages drama.
Yes, thank you, Cyrus. Somehow your voice was breaking for me. I don't know whether
Sure.
it's at my end or.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
So just
Yeah, it was breaking for me also.
okay. So I'll just highlight the important things that are sticking to me since I've read it. So mother says I've made discoveries, right? We talk about diseases, right? Again, the ill will and all that associated with diseases, accidents, wars, like even wars are because the human material consciousness is small, narrow, and it has this taste for drama. Because I want drama, I want diversions, I want distractions, I want spices, I want salt. So, because of my want for these things, diseases, accidents, catastrophes, wars, they happen. And mother says, of course, behind there is the vital being having fun. So part of us is having fun. Again, this is like the type of the fun. I don't know, I'm sounding very morose today, but that kind of fun that the dog has when he's chewing on a bone and he's sucking on his own blood. So anyway, all that enjoys an opportunity to, this is a different matter, delay the divine work and make things difficult. And all that takes pleasure in that naturally encourages drama. So our need for drama is the cause of a lot of our issues. So here mother says, if you bang against something, it becomes a drama. You tell everybody. If two nations quarrel, it becomes a drama. Everything becomes a drama. The taste for drama. So just yeah, if we look at it, this need is there, and maybe it helps. Hopefully, it helps if we know that, and can then put the finger that, oh, this is why it's happening. So, last time only, I had pulled up some things that mother had said on gossip, and we couldn't get to those. So, maybe we'll just read some things to throw more light on that. So if anybody is willing, we can take one passage and read what was said. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
6th July 1933. Is it not true that to look always at others' faults and criticize them is harmful and an obstacle to one's progress? Yes, all that is true. The lower vital takes a mean and petty pleasure in picking out the faults of others, and thereby one hampers both one's progress and that of the subject of the criticism. What is this, Taru? I didn't get it.
Uh,
One,
Yeah, so it's just like, mother is, somebody has asked her a question that is it not true that to look always at others' faults and criticize them, right? Like if you're always looking at faults, judging, criticizing, that's an obstacle to one's progress. So mother has just replied to that, our lower vital takes a mean and petty pleasure in picking out the faults of others, and when we do that, that hampers our progress, what the question was. In addition, also the progress of the other person. So even we are
okay.
harming the other when we are talking about things. And here I feel one other thing to mention is that often we feel that it's the outer talking, right? That's obviously that's where we start with also that okay, I used to do this, now I don't. I used to speak for an hour about others, now I don't. I used to go to parties and gossip, now I don't. And yet there's so much going on inside that without any base, without any stability. We are walking on the street. Say I see a person walking towards me and he's not looking very, I don't know, he's like looking that maybe I should step back or whatever. And suddenly I see he's holding a dog chain and there's a very cute puppy, kind of wagging his tail coming behind me. Suddenly I see myself changing towards that person. Oh, he's all right. Somebody comes and they are doing something, and I'm like, why is it they sitting like that? Why are they doing this? Why are they not eating it properly? And suddenly they say something nice, something beautiful, or they talk about anything that they did which catches my fancy. I was like, oh yeah, 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 he's such a good person, she's such a good person. So as in, how in Hindi we say bin pehne ka lota. So there's nothing that I stand on. I say I have opinions, but those also are not coming from any truth, any center. It's just anything that's thrown at me. In drama school and all, we there's something called improv, right? Like when they throw things at you, and you're supposed to just do anything. Say they'll give you a hat, you have to make it anything. They give you a scarf, you have to just pretend it's a flag, or whatever. So it feels that we are doing that improv throughout our lives. That anything that's thrown at us without any roots, we just say, oh, this I'll do this I'll do this, because the mind does not like stillness, and I have not, it's my responsibility to teach it stillness, right? To aspire for stillness, to practice for stillness. But because I haven't done my part, it's just, again, a hula sand, going anywhere, sitting anywhere, doing anything. And then, yeah, I need to take responsibility. So, of course, at any point, goes without saying, it's a harmony circle. Please feel free to unmute and share. Yeah, Ritu, you had, yes, Cyrus.
Yeah, I mean, I was
You,
just thinking now, even can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah. So even when we read the paper, right? I mean, I was thinking now that sometimes we look for that gossip. Like there is some case in, recently in Karnataka about some big film star. He's involved in some, you know, I mean, he's involved in some crime where he killed his own fan and this and that. So it's like a gossip news. And even that you kind of, I must admit that I look at the paper and I read that first, you know. So I don't know under what category it comes. But as far as I think I shared last week also, as far as, be it friends or, other people, I think I've really cut down on talking about, people, and I don't encourage either. So that I think I shared last time, but I just thought about this part now, that about the paper where I do like look forward to reading gossip first, even though there's so much other news. So it's just sharing. I don't know where it comes in what category, and like, how much can you say no to, right? In that sense, right? So just a thought that came to my mind.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So, Cyrus, like, when you said you felt you were looking forward to that news, right? And if that just for experiment, right? Like, if you sit with yourself and see which center is it satisfying, right? So then new things come out, like things that we don't know about ourselves, things that we think are just harmless, right? Oh, I'm buying a newspaper. Obviously, I want news, and if this is being given as a cherry on the top, why not? Right? But this is not free, and this is costing us something that, talking outside, if it has greatly reduced, that's like really nice. And what about talking inside, right? Has it reduced? Because that too needs to reduce, right? Because if that reduces, then there is more awareness and concentration in our everyday life. Not concentration, but at least silence and alertness, maybe. Yes, please.
Yeah, fair enough. But then where do you put a point to it? Because a lot of the news is that, right? I mean, so how do you like differentiate, or I mean, when you're reading the paper, I mean, so much of it is they want to sell, right? I mean, be it news articles, be it magazines, everything has a bit of that, right? So, um, you know,
Yeah,
I'm
so
just
say like
wondering.
say if
I
you
mean,
go on YouTube, right? There's everything on YouTube, right? One can say that where does one put the line? So what is one looking at one when is searching, na? So say my father, I'll just share this with you. I don't even remember how many years back. How first, like say Hindustan Times of India used to have one paper, Then the HT city started. Then, there was paper on paper and paper. And then I don't know, the HT city bundle was even sometimes even thicker or more in number than the original. Do you remember, like,
Right,
kind of how the news thing has changed? So one day he said, I've had enough. And then he just told the paper guy to stop delivering papers. And it was years after that we haven't had newspaper in our house, because he said, what is this bullshit kind? Na, कि मैं क्या पढ़ रहा हूँ और क्यों पढ़ रहा हूँ? So because if
right.
it's there, you end up reading it. Yes, sorry, Cyrus, please.
No, no, I agree to you. I'm just saying that there is a lot of informative articles as well. I agree to that part of it, but there's a lot of good information as well. So sometimes you just come across, like, I agree. I mean, on that one thing I said, yeah, I look forward to it. But a lot of the other news is that. So sometimes you don't know where, you just go through, you read through. So when I think aloud, I can't say it hit. I mean, what is satisfying, because I love to read even knowledgeable things as well. So I maybe I don't have an answer now. I'll maybe think about it, but
Yeah,
I
we
don't
don't
have
need
that.
answers. This is more kind of just, how we are jolting our beings just to see, what else can be kind of shrugged off. So basically, say I'm trying to practice concentration, right? And I've had a very simple, ordinary day. The things that will attack me are also a little milder. But if I have read something sensational, if I've seen a shot of this or a small episode of that, I feel that hounding that just comes, that remember that happened. Ta, 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 ta. So I think this is also for what we are doing in our lives, right? So otherwise, if you are reading something for information and you see something here and there, and that is again just a little bit of salt in your life and it's not bothering, it's fine, right? But if say you're doing something where and it of course, there is something in me which wants that salt. So if I want that salt, I can take it. But if it's hampering me in other areas, the question is it worth it, right? Why so much bad things? Why do bad things sell so much? In Buddhism, they talk about, at least I have heard that in general, that Sunmada actually had said this, that if we look at the world, more good things are happening than bad things on an everyday basis. And yet, we all feel the world is a very bad place because it just gets accentuated. Today, this morning, I was going through something and there was this post about somebody urgently needing to go out, and they were asking on the group that, can anybody keep my my dog for 3 days? I'm so sorry I couldn't make arrangements and stuff. And some people, of course, gave her some addresses of hotels or some people who house sit pets. But suddenly the tone of the message had changed because people were warning her that if you want your pet to be alive, do not give it to anybody, any friend, anything. Make sure it's a pet hospital, a hotel, it's a certified person which has don't know what. So just how we make something so big, something might have happened, but that doesn't make everybody bad, right? But we hear the bad thing and we think it's a bad world, it's a bad world. Why? Because I am attracted to the sensational. There's this small joke, right? That a boy was selling newspapers, and it's actually a true incident that a boy was selling newspaper and he was saying something, कि ये हो गया और 50 लोग मर गए, something like this. He was just throwing the, how when they used to sell newspapers by hand with slogans. So a person quickly bought it and he said कि अरे इसमें तो ऐसा कुछ नहीं लिखा, तो क्या बोल रहा है? There's nothing that says what you're saying. Nobody, there was no attack, 50 people did not die. So and the boy said, no, but your money is not refundable, your money is not refundable, and he ran. So some things like this. So I want such gossips, I want sensational news, and then I say, what is the quality of the news? What is the quality of our serials? What is the quality of our movies? But then it is I, right? We, the people who's making the city, the country, the news. So just if we don't want to change, how will the world change? Will anything change if I am not changing, or at least knowing the truth of my actions? We're often complaining about the government, right? Like the politics, the government, and yes, people from the common people, they become and they rise and they take these positions. So unless what the bulk is, what the base is changing, nothing can change. But yeah, it will come, it will happen. So, okay, this is a very short one and it's a repetition almost. Somebody says, is gossiping and making fun of others a hindrance to one's progress in sadhana? So again, it's about sadhana. It's somebody who's trying to sadhu. For that person, mother says it can be and very often is. A gossiping spirit is always an obstacle, right? Obstacle to one's progress. Ritu, you had unmuted when last time, if you want to read this one.
Yes. 6 December 1936. The difficulty you experience exists because speech is a function which in the past has worked much more as an expression of the vital in man than of the mental will. Speech breaks out as the expression of the vital and its habits without caring to wait for the control of the mind. The tongue has been spoken of as an unruly member. In your case, the difficulty has been increased by the habit of talk about others, gossip, to which your vital was very partial, so much that it cannot even yet give up the pleasure in it. It is therefore this tendency that must cease in the vital itself. Not to be under the control of the impulse to speech, to be able to do without it as a necessity, and to speak only when one sees that it is right to do so, and only what one sees to be right to say, is a very necessary part of yogic self control. It is only by perseverance and vigilance and a strong resolution that this can be done. But if the resolution is there, it can be done in a short time by the aid of the force behind.
Yes, thank you. So basically, the main thing for me was speech breaks out as the expression of the vital and its habit without caring to wait for the control of mind. The tongue has been spoken of as an unruly member. A lot of times, something in us is wanting to stop us, and I'm quite sure all of us has experienced this, but before we can stop, it comes out. And similarly, when one is looking at inside the thoughts, the chatter, the patterns, it just feels that कैसे होगा, but होगा. So just to know is of course the first step. So without caring to wait for the control of mind, and we call ourselves mental beings, right? Mother says, let reasoning be the master of the house. So I must at least aspire and try to practice this. So mother says it is only by perseverance and vigilance and a very strong resolution. So it's not easy. She's recognizing it can be done. But if the resolution is there, I want to do it, I want to do it. If the will is there, It can be done in a short time by the aid of the force behind. Not up to me alone. मेरे करे नहीं होगा. And that is why, it is said that we have to offer, we have to surrender, because I cannot change, but things can be changed in me with faith and grace, and of course, but there has to be perseverance and vigilance, aspiration on my part. I have a very good video. I'll be putting that shortly, but just sorry, I just screen share again so that you're seeing the right screen. So, these small things by the mother, but not small, but small sentences. The world is deafened with useless words. And this one, if only people did remain a little quiet before speaking, acting, or writing. So, speaking, acting, or writing, much trouble could be avoided. So many things are said uselessly. They bring misunderstandings and bad feelings, which could have been saved with silence. If were spoken only the words that needed to be spoken, the world would be a very silent place. So, we could again revolt against this. Our being would revolt that क्या बात नहीं करें क्या कुछ करें क्या फिर how do we do, what do we do, how do we live our lives, and yet we are not happy with our lives. So now that when we are looking for things that we can change, again the being revolt. So it has to stick somewhere, right? Okay, so pausing here before sharing that video, which I thought was quite helpful, and we'll be discussing it. I'll be pausing it in between. Before I do that, any reflections on what we have read or anything else? I'll take that as a no. Yeah.
When the mind becomes active, especially in a conversation, opinions are expressed, the egoic mind usually needs to respond in order to assert its existence or strengthen its sense of self. Particularly with opinions, it can happen easily that before you know it, you've been taken over by a mind stream. The question is whether there's at any given moment, whether there's enough presence in you so you can be aware of the movement of your thoughts in a conversation. That's the challenge. Otherwise, you're lost in the mind stream and the reactive patterns of the mind. A good practice is to become.
Yeah, just I'll be pausing in between just to make sure, because his talking style is also, one can just get lost in thoughts. So what did he just say right now? Was anybody listening? What was the main gist right now? That can anybody unmute and tell me? We are lost in our mind stream. So when we are talking about gossip, when we are talking about mental chatter, it's not just the outside things that we are doing. When we are doing this, we'll also be doing it inside, in our silent, in our being. We are talking, how we were saying that we look at somebody, opinion comes, something else comes, something else. There's another stimulus, there's another reaction from us. So what is the result? What is happening due to that? I'm not here. The body is here. The mind is not here. And I'm losing the present moment. That might sound like absolutely like nothing, that what's in that? And yet, this is how our life passes without us being present in it, that we don't even know where the life is gone because I wasn't present. I was always lost in the chatter.
And the reactive patterns of the mind. A good practice is to become aware of yourself listening when somebody says something. Be aware of two things when you're listening to another person. The other person may be voicing an opinion or gossiping or criticizing somebody else, as is often the case. When you're listening, be aware of two things rather than one thing, so you make it into a spiritual practice. Be aware of obviously, what you're listening to, the content, and at the same time, be aware of yourself as the listener, the presence that makes the listening possible, the presence in you that makes the listening possible. So as you sit with people, you are there as a listening presence. In addition to being aware of what they're talking about, you feel your continuing presence there. And now, if you never said anything, that would be an easier practice. But at some point, of course, you will probably, because it's a normal human situation, you will probably begin to speak also. And then the important thing is not to get taken over by your mind stream. You need to be particularly alert when a negativity comes in, as you mentioned, gossip about other people. You find yourself, you say, agreeing or disagreeing. So you're taking up a mental position. Is there something in between that is not necessarily agreeing, not necessarily disagreeing, in between the two mental positions of acceptance of what they're saying or reinforcing it with your opinion, agreeing to it, or disagreeing? Is there a neutral space from where you can simply observe possible mental positions in others and your own tendency to adopt a mental position? One good practice, I believe I even recommended it somewhere in a book, is when everybody expressing their opinions, whatever it may be about, a good practice is, and let's say it makes, nobody's asking you, let's say, for your opinion, and it makes no difference to the situation, so they are not trying to decide some course of action, but simply people are simply putting out their opinions. You can observe the almost compulsion to give your opinion, especially if things like politics or other favorite things that people love to express opinions about. You might feel the compulsion to say something, and as a spiritual practice, just let go of needing to put forward your opinion. So in other words, you ask yourself, what happens if I don't express my opinion? How does that feel? Of course, it doesn't make any difference to the situation or who you are. So to just refrain from unnecessarily expressing your opinion is a spiritual practice in itself.
Yeah, just pausing here. Again, we were talking about in the beginning, Ritu and Deepa, about what we can do, what we can say. Maybe this is something we can try to do this week. We have to state it in a very obvious manner. So stating it, that maybe we can try. Maybe we already do it. So maybe doing it in areas where we are not able to do it and still doing it. So have we understood the practice, and any questions, any comments till now? Okay, so taking that as all okay. Restarting, not restarting, but continuing.
And at first you feel almost that you're losing some of your identity when you're not participating in that. But you're actually going away from egoic identity to a deeper place of awareness. So the pull of the mind is very strong when you're discussing things and other people are expressing their positions, identifying with their positions. Be aware, observe in other people the emotional charge behind their mental positions also. Observe how there's no awareness of their mental position. It's complete identification with the thought streams. So be there when you're with people, be there as an observer also, not just as somebody who's participating. Observe the force behind mental positions. And if you see it in others, how they get taken over by their opinions. The Buddha talks about the thicket of opinions and how people get entangled in that. Really, what he's talking about is identifying with thoughts. So the thoughts become you. And so people get trapped in the thicket of opinions, as the Buddha puts it. And of course, one Zen master, I can't remember the name, recommended as a spiritual practice, a very simple but powerful spiritual practice: stop cherishing opinions. He actually said, don't seek the truth, just cease cherishing opinions. Stop cherishing opinions. There's no need to seek the truth. Stop cherishing opinions. No, he's not saying stop having opinions, because that would be difficult. You can't at one stroke give up all opinions, nor is it necessary. But he says, stop cherishing opinions. To cherish means really to identify, to have your whole sense of self in your opinions, which are mental positions. Stop cherishing opinions, stop identifying with the mental positions. Then you can still have them, but they don't have you. That's a fundamental difference. For most people who are unaware, in other words, for most people, they don't have opinions. You can almost say the opinions have them. They are energy forces, mental energy fields that take possession of you completely. And then it's not you think you have an opinion. No, the opinion has you. The mental position has you. It's kind of like a parasitic presence in you. So great spiritual practice, rather than looking for the truth or God or self-realization or enlightenment, stop identifying with your mental positions. Stop cherishing opinions. That's a spiritual practice.
So don't seek the truth. Just stop cherishing your mental opinions. So any reflections on that? Any agreements, disagreements? It's a very different way of looking at things, right? Because we feel motivated by right, ethics, morality, and truth, right? Yeah. So I guess since there's nothing to be said, of course I have more sharings, more readings, but there's no point because I guess we have to take in what we can. And I think it feels enough for right now. It feels we have enough for one session. So there's some egoistic attraction towards this is who I am. And this is what I believe in. It gives me some kind of assurance, some validation, some self respect, some self satisfaction that this is my opinion. Even in spiritual world, in ashrams, this terminology which had often surprised me is often used, senior sadhak. He's the senior sadhak, he's a newcomer. It means nothing, right? At the root of it means nothing. And yet we give that, a lot of space. What is an opinion? It's just a thought, right? That just came. Or it's a thought that I've been repeating for years and now it has taken ground in me and I'm not even listening to what I'm saying anymore because that is who I say I am. This is my position in the world. And in a world where the world is temporary, where we are temporary, where everything is temporary, the importance that we give to our opinions is like, if we were to look at ourselves, and we will look at ourselves sometimes later, with or without the body at least, we will be laughing at ourselves or crying. That really, I mean, of course, it would be laughing because hopefully it would be laughing. But these things about, rights and wrongs, it really takes us away from, I don't know, takes more towards wrong than rights. So I guess we'll end the session here and let's see what we take up next time and or not. So, yeah. So thanking grace, thanking the divine for what I already have, and aspiring and hoping and praying for more grace, more light, a clearer path, and more strength to follow the on the right path. Keeping aside our opinions and our ideas of wrongs and right. May I walk strong, may I walk light. Praying this for everyone and sharing the merit of all my good deeds, good practices, good thoughts with everyone. May all beings be truly well and happy, and may there be less suffering. May no one suffer. Thank you.
Thank you.